Hi, and welcome to Stamp with Ginny. Today I'm going to share with you how I made this center flap card using the Greatest Journey stamp set. This card is a lot of fun with its quick little cutting and will stand for display purposes. So let me set this aside and we'll get started. Okay, to cut this center flap card, I'm going to take my 5.5-inch piece of basic gray and I'm going to place it here on the 1.25-inch mark on the right hand side. Lining it up. There we go. And I'm going to take my cutting blade here and I'm going to run it down to the 4.25-inch mark. Now there's a little groove on the side of the blade so that you can easily see where that mark lines up, and I'm going to slide it right to there. Then I'm going to slide my basic gray cardstock over to the 1.25-inch mark here on the left and fold it. Now I want to make sure I'm still starting on the 4.25-inch mark, which I'm a little bit off, so I can slide it down and then back up. Now that cuts my two flaps here for my center flap card. Next I'm going to place this on the 4.25-inch mark, and I'm going to bring my score blade up and I am going to run it across the whole length of the card. If I've done that right, my score lines will meet that cut, and if I'm a little short, I can always use my paper snips. So that's the quickest way to cut the center flap card. So let me set this aside and I'll show you how to assemble. Now at this point I've got my center flap and my side flaps, and I want to bring my bone folder in, and I simply want to fold each of those on the score line. There we go. I've got all three parts folded now, and I'm going to simply adhere these two side flaps down. One and two. I'm lining up that outside edge so it's nice and straight. At this point, I'm ready to start decorating. So let me set this aside and I'll stamp my panels and decorate. Okay, I have two panels here that are cut from basic white, and I've also cut some of the little cloud images using a post-it note. I've got the sticky on the longest end here of the post-it note, and I'm going to do the inside panel first. I'm going to set these two clouds down just to add a little pop of color. I'm going to bring in my mini blending brush, pick up some ink off of my balmy blue, and start on the outside edge and simply swirl. Like I said, this is the inside panel, so I just wanted to add a little pop of color to that panel to add a bit of interest. Okay, I've got my second panel here. I'm going to bring in my clouds, and I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to lay these clouds down where I want them, bring in my blending brush with my balmy blue, and lightly tap some, or lightly swirl some color around those clouds. Now I don't need to add a lot of color because I want this to be a soft and subtle look, but I am going to blend this down farther and fill in some of the blank areas here. Okay, I've got that done. I can remove my clouds and you can see this beautiful background that I've created. And then I'm going to bring in the piece of sticky note that I've cut using the mountain die. Now, normally this would go this way, but I'm going to take this, flip it upside down, and place it onto my basic white, pick up my blending brush, and swirl some color along this edge. Now on this, I want it a little bolder, so I'm going to add a couple of layers. And I can even bring that down a little bit. I'm looking for a very organic image, and so I'm going to let that shade go down. Next, I'm going to bring my mask back, and I am going to, let's see, do another layer a little bit lower, picking up that ink again, and this time I want a little stronger color. My Post-it note will protect what I've already done. And I'm going to go to the end of the cardstock again and remove that mask. Isn't that lovely? I've got this beautiful hillside image or mountain image now. And I'm ready to build my card front. I'm going to bring in my die cut here. I'm going to cut my basic gray cardstock, which is the same measurement here of my focal point, and I'm going to run that through my Stampin' Cut and Emboss as desired. And then I'm going to bring in my little motorcycle image. I've added an adhesive backing to my cardstock so I can cut him out and be able to adhere this quickly and easily since it's got these fine details on it. If you don't have the adhesive sheets, you can use your multi-purpose adhesive or a fine tip glue pen. So let me run those through and we'll get started. Now the great thing about this die is you'll have a top and bottom that you can use with that edge. And for this project, I'm going to be using the bottom piece here, and I'm going to flip it over to create this look of the mountain. I think that'll look nice with the biker. And then the bike, be aware that when you're using our adhesive sheets, you might want to run it through a couple of times before you remove your die, especially when you're cutting these fine detail pieces. So before I start assembling, I'm going to add this little piece down here on the bottom as a mask and my biker. And I'm going to bring in my smoky slate and my sentiment, Many Mountains of Thanks. And I'm going to stamp that right up here in the top left-hand corner. There we go. I'm using the smoky slate since we've used that for the blending brush. And now I'm ready to start assembling. Okay, I'm going to start with my mountain here on the panel, and I'm going to add a little bit of adhesive here and adhere that down. Now at this point, if you didn't cut it perfectly or if you used a longer strip, you can trim the edges simply by turning it over and running your paper snip against the edges as a guide. I'm going to take my adhesive sheet off the back of our mountain biker here, and I'm going to place him right about there and adhere him down. And then for a fun little detail, I'm going to take that other piece of the mountain that I had cut, and I'm going to adhere that down on my inside panel. I think it'll give a nice little detail to the project. There we go. I'm going to bring my card over and I'm going to adhere my inside panel down. I'm spacing this evenly between my two flaps that I've already adhered down, and that margin is going to be there. Let's see, I want to take off this little bit of cardstock on the one edge. It's a little longer than my panel. So I'm going to adhere that down right in the center. There we go. When my flap closes, that'll be hidden, but I'll still have that little margin here from my designer series paper. So I'm going to take that and adhere it to either side of my center panel. And for this, if the direction of your designer series paper is important, or the pattern that you've cut, you want to make sure it's in the right direction. I've got those two panels done. I'm ready to close and add my panel to the front. As you can see, our basic white cardstock is plenty thick enough to stamp on more than one time if you make a mistake. So there we go. I've got my mountain bike in the center of my panel, and I'm just going to add a little texture with the classic matte dots here. I'm going to pick one up and put one in the center of this wheel, and I'm using the basic gray because it'll be tone on tone and keep with my silhouette image. That one dot flipped upside down when I tried to reach it. There we go. And I'm going to add a little white one here on the bottom and a larger one here next to the Mountains of Thanks. So there we go, a cute little project using the Greatest Journey stamp set and dies. This fun little center flap card will stand for display purposes and will surely bring a smile to somebody's face. I hope you've enjoyed this project, and if you'd like any of these products, feel free to stop by my online store. You can get there from my blog, Stamp with Jini. Thanks for joining me.